All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome in and thank you for joining us today. My name is Scott Strand, and with me I have Richard Vanderbloom. So we will be getting started here shortly. We're right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to let other people come keep joining in while I go over some intro information. So we're here today for the presentation, How to Win on LinkedIn, Mastering Personal Branding, Social Selling, and Employee Advocacy. To go over the agenda of what will be covered today, first, I'll ask Richard about building a personal brand on LinkedIn that makes you stand out in your market. Next, I'll ask him about some of the latest research on the LinkedIn algorithm that can help you maximize visibility and engagement on your posts. Then, Richard will highlight some simple steps that can turn your team into brand ambassadors that expand your company's reach and influence. And finally, we'll cover some LinkedIn outreach techniques that will help build trust with your prospects and help you increase your response rates. Cool. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today, Richard Vanderbloom. Richard is the founder and CEO of Just Connecting Hub, an international agency providing dedicated LinkedIn training sessions and consulting. Since 2010, he's provided training sessions for over 300,000 professionals and 1,000 companies worldwide, including Nestle, PwC, InterSystems, Salesforce, and many others. So Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited for this. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I thank you for having me. Looking forward, I just realized talking about expectation management that we have a lot to cover. So I guess we just like take it away, no?
Yes, let's do it. Yeah. I will mention, as a reminder, everyone attending this webinar today will get a free digital copy sent to them of Richard's groundbreaking research report, the Algorithm Insights 2024 report. This was released in February earlier this year, and it quickly garnered millions of impressions, had over 12,000 mentions, and thousands of downloads. And I'm sure all those numbers have increased since. But it has gone on to be translated into Portuguese, German, French, Arabic, and many more languages. And this report is very comprehensive, and it will definitely be very helpful if you're serious about building a LinkedIn strategy for success. So thanks for sharing this with everyone. And quickly, my name is Scott Strand. I'll be your host today, asking Richard lots of questions to pull out insights from the report and get his take on some of the burning audience questions that have already been submitted. I myself have 10 years of experience in demand gen and growth marketing at several B2B SaaS companies and can testify to some of the challenges and mystery of using LinkedIn and trying to use it as a growth channel. So I'll be hoping to kind of uncover some answers today. First, really quickly, if you're attending this webinar and concerned about the time or expertise needed to run a successful LinkedIn strategy, that's where Marketer Hire really comes in and helps. We connect you with the top 1% of marketers like Richard who are looking for freelance work, which helps you get the best results on your schedule and budget. And we work with over 100 social media experts from top companies, so we can really like connect you with the experts that have the right blend of skills and experience to match your needs. So if you're interested after the presentation, head to marketerhire.com to book a custom scoping session for free today. All right, heard enough of my voice, so I really want to turn it over to Richard and hear what he has to say. So let's first get started talking about personal branding on LinkedIn. So Richard, through your years of research, you've analyzed thousands of the most successful LinkedIn profiles and studied what it really means to have effective personal branding on the platform. So in your informed opinion, what best practices have you noticed in how top performers position their professional story compared to like a typical user?
Yeah, it's a great starting point to talk about personal brand because in my vision and my like strategy, I think the profile is like the foundation of your potential LinkedIn success. I mean, without a strong personal brand, I mean, you can put out the most exciting content, but if people check your brand and check your profile and it's not convincing, it doesn't add instant trust or credibility, you get like way less conversion. So the brand is like the foundation.
Mhm.
Um, when you look at some top performers on LinkedIn, you have actually two different types. Those who already had a very strong personal brand offline and took it to LinkedIn to scale. Probably one of the best example is Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody knows Gary Vaynerchuk. He was hot on YouTube. He was hot offline. He took his presence also to LinkedIn, and he accelerated to almost 5 million, or maybe now more than 5 million followers in like less than 12 months. Okay. So those are the people that already have a strong offline personal brand. Take it to LinkedIn to accelerate. LinkedIn can help you as an entrepreneur, as a sales guy or a marketeer, to launch your personal brand when you are not yet as known as Gary Vaynerchuk or other like strong personal brands, but you start to create your brand / your profile with your target audience in mind. So there are two things that you need to have absolutely clear before you start to create such a brand. First, your unique value proposition. So you need to know, what is it that I have to offer? How do I distinguish myself? How do I differ from other people? So why would people actually hire me for my services, hire me for my solutions? And then obviously you need to have a clear vision, a clear idea of who is my ideal client profile. Okay, so what are the types of businesses or the type of people I serve, and what are the top 3 challenges I help them to overcome? If you have that as what I call ingredients, then it's time to start building your profile with a customer-centric approach. So basically, I think top performers, how do they create? By putting their target audience first, by having a very strong unique value proposition, and by combining that in how they construct their profile.
You've done this research for like a long time, year after year. So like, how has the approach to personal branding really shifted from like years past? Has it shifted at all?
Well, I think it's not even about the research. I mean, I'm every day on LinkedIn. I have seen literally people who started their LinkedIn journey like 2 years ago, and who already accelerated way past, for example, my own growth. If you talk about people like Ruben Hassid, for example, who is one of the experts when it comes to the use of AI. I mean, he started his journey end of 2022, and now he has 500,000 followers based on how he built his brand, and he owned the topic of AI. If you look at people, for example, Jasmine Alic, who came back to the platform also end of 2022. I mean, that's 2 years ago, scaled from like a few thousand followers to almost 300,000 followers in less than 18 months. But those are people that have a very clear understanding of who is my target audience and what do I have to offer. And they focus, I think 90% of their content is aimed at that topic. Okay, so no fluff around it, not sharing like a top 10 of leadership infographic because it gives me a virality. No, stick to your topic of expertise, own that expertise as a thought leader, and from there on scale. So I think a lot of people like me, I went to the platform back in 2005, and I really got to grow my brand on LinkedIn starting 2018. But it took me longer than a lot of new content creators who come to the platform with a clear vision, a clear topic, and everything they do is to stand out on that topic. I hear some discussions on LinkedIn that if you now need to grow your brand, you're too late. Like that ship has like left the harbor. It's not true, because I've seen so many people recently in the last 12 months coming to the platform. Again, clear understanding of who is my target audience, what do I have to offer, and what is my plan. And they have really scaled their brand. So, I mean, their follower grow, their connection grow, but also their visibility on LinkedIn, like enormously.
Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Just thinking how you would want to follow a content creator, where it's like, I want to follow this person, I don't want to follow 10 people to hear everything about marketing. I want to follow this person to hear this specific function, much like how like I follow you because I want to hear your thoughts on social media and LinkedIn usage, not every thought on marketing that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Great. And so I'm curious too. We were just talking before this about how you've traveled a lot in the world. You've lived in several different places around the world, helped companies all over the world. So I'm curious if you've noticed any kind of regional differences. I know your research is very in depth, and so you've looked at kind of like in different areas of the world, how are things different? So any regional difference you've noticed specifically about personal branding and effectiveness of that?
This is actually a very interesting question for a few reasons. So first of all, this is not included in the algorithm report. So there is no like really regional differences. The only thing that is in the algorithm report is that if you use English as your language to share posts, that you get a slightly more reach than if you
Hmm.
have your native language, whatever that may be, Spanish, German, French. However, if I would be a German living in Germany, and again, my target audience are entrepreneurs in Germany, I would definitely go for German because you get much more engagement. Okay. So it's not only about getting more reach because you have a global language like English. No, it's making sure that the things you do are aligned with the preferences of your target audience. We are at the moment finishing what we call an intercultural research on how people use LinkedIn in 7 different regions of the world. So we have North America, we have South America, the Middle East, the Far Asia, we have Europe, and we have, I think we have Africa. Um, I don't have the results yet, but what we see definitely, and this has not necessarily something to do with LinkedIn, this is how we do business, okay? So you have cultures where, for example, relationships comes first. Okay, you don't sell anything, you don't talk business before you have established a relationship. I live now in Spain, for example. Mediterranean countries, also South American countries, are very like that. First, we need to have a relation. I need to know, like, what are your favorite restaurants, like where did you grow up, that kind of trust before we start business. There are other cultures that actually avoid this personal chit chat and are more like directly aimed like, hey, I have this problem, this is how you can help me. And this also reflects on how we build our brand. For example, and tell me if you think it's not true, but what we have seen that, for example, North Americans, US, Canada, also the UK, they have less problems with positioning themselves as, I'm the absolute expert, I'm the thought leader you need to have. You have a culture where some people are actually like real living heroes because they have achieved things, and then your audience accepts that you position yourself as a thought leader or an expert. Okay, where in
Right.
other countries, and Holland is a good example, Germany is a good example, we don't have the hero culture. Just act normal, don't pretend you know more than anyone else. And so the
Yep.
way how you would build your profile is also based on, again, who's my target audience. I have taken it to, about 2 years ago, more a North American approach. So I have really like um, forgot about my heritage, my Dutch heritage. I just went in like, okay, I need to position myself as strong as possible
Mhm.
because let's be honest, if our viewers or listeners, if you're an entrepreneur or a sales guy, marketing guy, or looking for a job, if you don't position yourself as the best option for your clients, who will? Nobody's going to do that, not your client. So you can say, I'm second best. I'm not the cheapest. I'm not the best performing, but hey, here you can book me. It will not fly. You need to be very confident and you need to position yourself in an authentic way, but as strong as possible. So when it comes to regional differences, Scott, this is probably a cliffhanger, but in a month from now, probably January, we will release this report. It will be released for free on LinkedIn. Um, and it shows differences in how we build our profile. It shows differences in how we write content. Is it strictly business? Is it more also personal? It
Yep.
also shows in the way how we connect. Do we send a personal message? If so, where are we referring to? There are really some differences, but that is based on like the culture of doing businesses in those countries.
Yep. Yep. And that sounds like a super interesting report. And this kind of like answers, will answer this question exactly. But I've
Yeah,
totally seen the same thing. I actually work for a European country or company,
you told me.
but we're working on expanding into the US heavily. And so we've kind of had this discussion like flat out, like a full meeting about like, okay, how do we kind of take our very like in the past humble approach that may have worked really well in Europe and get a little more like we're the best. We need to be confident that we're like the best solution out there as we reach into American audiences. So I've definitely seen that. And it's also interesting to think like, yeah, in as we sell into Germany, like it's very important that we go to events and meet people in person to lead to close business because that is what we've just seen that be more necessary. And then in America, it's like, what problem do you have before asking the name? It's
Exactly.
and yeah, that obviously translates a lot into LinkedIn, I think. And you see a lot of content where it's someone, claiming themselves as the expert, but also like then you see other creators, taking a kind of a humble approach. So it's interesting to see, and obviously you have to have it varied as you approach global audience, ideally.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say about this question, I think the best content where you see really the cultural differences is I just saw a post from Hormozi about his success. I went from almost bankrupt to now having a company that is valued 250 million, acquisition.com. So the guy is bragging or is positioning himself as a successful entrepreneur, which in my option, he has every right to do. I mean, he made it, But this kind of post, I saw actually the post because somebody in Holland reshared it and said like, this guy is a mess. It's a fake. It's like, why would I care what he has done the last 10 years? Like, why would you brag? So the culture of showing your success, which is very, I think, common and very accepted in the US, for example. But also, for example, in Japan, South Korea, if you have success, show it. Is not accepted in the same way in Holland, where people go like, this is bragging. Why do I need to know that? Why do I need to know that you have a 250 million company? It's just a show off. So those kind of cultures, if you know about them, again, and you have a target audiences in a specific region, you might want to adjust your content or the way how you build your profile.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Well, I do want to keep this moving along. We covered the personal branding pretty well, but I would really love to move on to the content and algorithm, which I think is an area a lot of our audience will really care and think about a lot. So curious, specifically, your research on LinkedIn's algorithm and how it functions is very extensive, and you update it frequently based on algorithm updates. By the numbers, what kind of content formats currently get the highest reach, and how dramatic is that difference between different formats?
Yeah, again, it's a good question. I really like to state because some people mistake my post or my research and they go like, Richard, the algorithm is constantly changing and you don't need to change the algorithm. You need to embrace your target audience. You need to be relevant, insightful. And then at the end, I say, you're absolutely right. Okay, so I really want to state clear that for me, getting insights on the algorithm can optimize the results of your content. But 100% knowledge of the algorithm and 100% shitty content is still shitty content. It will not fly. Okay, so what we need to do is 100% relevant content first, right for your target audience, right for the human audience, and then optimize for the algorithm, and then you get success. What we've seen lately, and this might not come as a surprise. So a lot of people, I mean, 98, 99% of people see a huge decrease in reach. Okay, this was actually what we have seen since 2023. So we have two ways how we can look at that. First, we can complain about LinkedIn and say, hey, they're cutting down my reach, but maybe we have been given a lot of free reach for free until 2023. So maybe there's not a reason to complain. Maybe now it actually makes more sense that some posts only get 5,000 views instead of 50,000 views 3 years ago. Okay. The biggest, best performing content performance is at this moment is video content, especially the vertical video content, which is boosted by the algorithm because LinkedIn has launched the TikTok-like vertical video on mobile. Okay. Every time when LinkedIn launches a new product, like now I call it the TikTok-like vertical video, they will boost that type of content in the algorithm. We've seen it with with polls in 2020. They came with polls to the platform, and all we could see in the feed was polls, okay? Because LinkedIn is actively promoting this new type of content. So this is what they are doing now, vertical video. Secondly, carousel posts have always performed very well. So carousels are PDFs you upload, LinkedIn turns them into a slideshow. They are decreasing, but are still very well performing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the regular, what we call the default image, which is a default post, which is text with an image, which on average gets 40% less reach than last year. But I really have a lot of people in my feed that are really like getting fairly high numbers of engagement still with using the text and image. To go back to where I started this answer, it all depends on, is my content relevant? Is my content insightful? Does it add value? Is it a reason for people to follow me? And even better, is it a reason for people to engage? So also the way how you write your post has a huge impact on the performance, because I can do a carousel post, but if I don't trigger people to go through 10 slides in the way how I write the post, I get much less performance than if I combine a well-designed carousel with a well-written post. Okay, so there are so many elements that format alone is not the only parameter that will decide whether a post will get a good performance or a bad performance.
Yeah, that's a great part to just remember it. Of course, that's the challenging part, I think, is trying to remove your own bias. Like when you ask yourself, is this value adding? Is someone likely to follow me from that? But yeah, that's great to keep in mind, that's kind of like the key thing to keep in mind.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask another format question, even though I know content.
Yeah, of course.
I was curious I've seen carousels, and it's maybe like 3 slides of like a preview of a PDF or something, versus I've seen like 60 slide carousel with like a full crash course on a topic. Do you have any insights on which one works better? Like not from like necessarily even a reach, but maybe just even resonating as content?
Sure. So what we need to know when we talk about carousel posts, because to be fair, that's my favorite type of format. I share 2 or 3 of those posts every week. So what we need to know, so I've seen, like you, people having just 2 slides and making a carousel post. The most slides I've seen was 250. Okay, so imagine 250 slides.
Yeah.
So until 1 year ago, LinkedIn would look at your carousel and would give you additional reach for every slide that people would click on. Okay, so a click basically means it's relevant for me because I'm still engaging. I want to see the next slide, give me more reach. Okay. Yeah. Or the time that people spend, known as dwell time. Okay. So that's why people started to create those big slide decks, because, well, do the math. If you have 60 slides, 60 clicks, and let's say 10 minutes to go through all the slides, increase dwell time, increase the total number of clicks, so you get more additional reach. In order to stop that manipulation of reach, LinkedIn now, and this is very important, has added another element to slide decks, which means LinkedIn is now looking what is the percentage of the slides that people are consuming. So, for example, I have a document carousel post with 10 slides. And on average, people go to 8 slides, then 80% of the carousel post is, on average, it's consumed, okay? So that means that, hey, it's relevant. Now, the guy that published 250 slides and people stopping after 5 slides because they go, there's no way how I can do that, on average now, they consume 2%. So that means that LinkedIn is going to qualify it as less relevant. People don't consume the content. Our last research, October this year, said around 6 to 12 slides, ideal. Don't do more than 12 slides because people don't have the time to go that. So if you look at my carousel posts, they're all around 8, 10 slides. I try to stick there. But yeah, those are very important new developments when it comes to how to use the carousel format as a successful format.
Cool. Cool. That's great to know. I'm glad I asked that because yeah, I think that's the dwell time question, just the importance of that and kind of what it reveals about it, the impact on actual like distribution and reach. I think you answered that fairly well there, but do you have any other additions there?
Oh, I think it's very important that our listeners or viewers know that dwell time is important. Dwell time, for those who don't never heard the term, means the total time people spend on your post in their screen, okay, because they need to consume the content. This is also the reason why videos perform well. Because if you have a 1 minute video and people watch the 1 minute video, it means you have dwell time of at least 1 minute, okay?
Yeah.
But it's not the only important metric. So if you look at what metrics help me to get more reach, I'm only talking about reach, I'm not talking about but more visibility, then dwell time is one. Clicks, whether this is on a slide, whether this is on an answer on a poll, whether this is on a link or whatever, but every click, maybe you have uploaded 4 pictures and I want to go through the thumbnails, every additional click means additional reach. Then obviously we have the traditional engagement buttons, a like, a comment, a repost.
Mm-hmm.
Comment and repost will give you far more additional reach than likes. Likes don't do that much.
Got it.
And then we have what we call performance drivers. Performance drivers are things that have nothing to do with the behavior of your audience, but more with the behavior or the footprint of the author. So this is, for example, follower connections ratio. If you have far more followers than connections, you normally get more reach than if those are like at the same level. For example, I have 30,000 connections, I have 210,000 followers. So LinkedIn goes, wow, more and more people are following Richard because of his content. So we need to give him a bit of additional reach. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But also frequency. How often do you publish? Your own engagement. Do you engage yourself, or are you just dropping your own content and you don't care about others? So there are a lot of performance drivers, and those are mentioned in the research that also help you to get more reach.
That's a great just dump of information on reach. So I really appreciate that. Um, One thing I was going to ask about, and I'm myself very personally interested in this, is what has like research shown about like using things like external links or hashtags? Because I know I spotted you had something about hashtags in your report, but I would love to hear just like all of those small tactical little decisions, like after the content has been, strategized, let's say it's good to go. What are like the impact on the algorithm and reach if you do use like an external link, you use hashtags in a post?
Yeah, so here we need a disclaimer, Scott, because here we have the official communication of LinkedIn, and we
Mhm.
have a lot of independent research like ours, but also like Hootsuite, AuthorUp, Buffer, all these like tools, they have their own research when it comes to what are the tactics that give you more or less reach.
Mhm.
So from the field, so all independent research, or I haven't come across any research that said otherwise. All independent research says and clearly states having links, not even external, also internal links, but having links in your post will give you less reach for sure. It's somewhere between minus 30, minus 50%, which is a lot, okay, depending on which research. The official communication from LinkedIn, and I attended 2 days ago, or no, I didn't attend. I watched the recording of an official content creators webinar from LinkedIn, where the content creator from LinkedIn, it's not true, it's a myth, okay? Because, and they came up with one reason, which I agree, and they said if you publish an external link, it's not that the algorithm punishes, but people simply have less intent to click on a link and to go away from the platform. And that's true. Because if I look at my own behavior, if I'm scrolling in the morning through my feed, I don't want to click on a link and go to your website, for example, because no, I'm looking what my network is doing. So I don't have the intention to visit a website. So that means you get less clicks, people scroll past your post, which eventually results in less reach. Okay.
Sure.
However, we all know that none of the social media platforms likes it when your content drives people away from the platform. So whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, as soon as you have an external link, people click, they leave the platform. That means that you end the session time. And that's normally in marketing terms, that's not a good parameter. So officially, LinkedIn's communication says there's no penalty, but believe me, there is. When it comes to hashtags, it's more or less the same. LinkedIn says that they still help you to get more reach, because in an ideal world, if you code your post with hashtags, LinkedIn would make them visible to people who have an interest in that topic. Okay, that's how hashtags should work, but they don't work like that on LinkedIn. It's not. I haven't come across a hashtag related post of someone I don't follow, I'm not connected with, but LinkedIn shows it to me simply because I like the hashtag. It doesn't work. They never managed to create a feed like that. Until 18 months ago, there was still a slightly higher reach if you use between 3 and 5 hashtags. I think the last number we measured was 8 to 12% more reach. That has also gone. The last 18 months has shown that having hashtags or having no hashtags does not make any difference when it comes to additional reach. Mm-hmm. What do I advise on hashtags? I normally don't use them myself. There are a few exceptions. The most important one, events. You know, all the events still work with hashtags. They use them on Instagram, on Twitter, also on LinkedIn. So if you want to say, hey, follow the event hashtag or use the event hashtag and see all the event-related posts, that still works like a charm, okay? But does it help you to get more reach? Does it help you to get your content outside your network bubble? No, it doesn't.
Cool. That's good. That's great to know. I think a lot of people are curious about that. I've definitely wondered, about the effectiveness of including a link in the main post versus in the comments versus, having posts without that when not needed. But yeah.
It's very, and there you mentioned a tactic that a lot of people are using, put the link in the comment. Now we have a few problems because LinkedIn is actively penalizing links in the comments. They are actually hiding them. It will never be the most relevant. So people need to look for the link. And like we all know, if people need to click 1 or 2 times, they lose interest. Yep. If people repost or reshare your post, the comments is not included. So then they repost something that says at the bottom, see the first comment for the link, and there is no link.
Yeah.
And if you have a successful post and you get multiple comments, your comment with the link also is hidden by all the successful comments that you get. So for me, it's very simple. If the link is crucial for the conversion of the post, for example, I'm organizing a webinar and I want people to sign up, put the link in the original post. Okay, settle for less reach, but get more conversion. Don't hide it, because less people who will find the registration link, less conversion. But the thing you always need to ask yourself, is the link crucial? Do I need to have a link? Because in 8 out of 10 times, people publish a link, but they don't need to have the link because their content on itself is already relevant or insightful enough to get engagement and increase visibility. So that's my take on external links. First, decide whether you need it. If you need it, put it in the body, but don't put it in the comments.
Awesome. Great insights there. I'm posting some of these insights in the chat as we go.
Cool.
So just highlighting there for the audience. Let's see. I do want to make sure, actually, I think this is a really important one, and then we'll move on to the next section. But
Cool.
One thing that I think a lot of people think about is the timing and or frequency of posting. You already kind of mentioned it and hit on the frequency being a factor. But just kind of based on your research, what is the most ideal timing or frequency to drive kind of the highest impact, maybe according to reach or engagement?
Yeah, cool. It's probably one of the most asked questions during live trainings from participants, like how often should I publish in order to reach result X? And I understand the question, but it's impossible to answer. And frequency is not the most important thing. The most important thing is consistency. So imagine this week you have a lot of time to create content, and this week you're going to publish 5 posts. But next week you're publishing 1. The week after, you're coming back with 5. The week after, you publish 0. So this inconsistent way of publishing your content does not yield the same results as, for example, in this case, just have 3 posts every week. So the more consistent you are, the more you train the algorithm and your human audience, like, hey, show up because I'm publishing. That also goes for timing. I myself, I try to publish all my posts between 8 and 9:30 a.m. European time zone. Okay, why European? Because that's where I am. That's the most convenient for me. I wake up, I publish, and I continue with my day. If you have a local audience, for example, my target audience is US, then always try to publish in the morning time US, okay? Because that's where your target audience is, and they have a complete working day, working hours, where they can engage, okay? If you, for example, publish 6 p.m. afternoon, then you only have about 1.5, 2 hours activity on the platform from US-based members, which means after that, the engagement drops because everybody goes to sleep, okay? So if you have a local audience, use the morning. If you have an international or global audience like me, do whatever you think is the most convenient, because I can really see when I publish, the first engagement comes from the Middle East and India, people who are already at lunch break, okay? Then the Europeans wake up and they start. And in the afternoon, European afternoon, I see my American, South American, North American network jump on the post because they start their working day. So consistency more important than frequency. Ideal timing, local audience morning, global audience do whatever is the best according to your own schedule.
Cool. That's great to know. That's actually I mentioned the company I work for is European based.
Yep.
And I was posting on social media for a while until realizing that I was having to schedule every single post to try to be more in line with our bigger audience segment.
Yep.
So we switched that responsibility around a little bit, but also occasionally post for, very America specific things, like
Yep.
events or certain.
Yep.
We actually have an audience question that's really relevant for this. Are there any preferences for days to publish?
Yeah, I guess so. So for example, I publish 6 times a week. Sometimes I take a day off. The day off is irregular. So it's not that I always take one weekend day off. It could be a Monday or Wednesday. I guess this question is more relevant if you publish like twice or maybe 3 times a week. Okay, which days? And again, it's a myth that posts on weekends perform less. It's not true. Actually, 3 out of my top 5 posts were published on a Saturday or Sunday. And the reason behind it is that, first, in a weekend, you have less competition, okay? Because some people who still use LinkedIn Monday to Friday are not publishing content in the weekend. However, a lot of them are checking their newsfeed. So less competition in creators, but not the same decrease of people checking their feed. So you have more audience for less posts. For me, the thing is that you need to understand what is the type of content that people prefer to read on which day. For example, if I have an in-depth white paper, or if I'm going to publish a new algorithm report, I will never do that in the weekend. I will probably choose a Monday or a Tuesday, so I have the entire week that people on the platform can read it, repost it, comment on it. If I have a more personal post, like a personal story I want to share, those posts I prefer to have on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because that's more where people relax. We all like to read stories, so they don't like to read the white papers or heavy in-depth content in a weekend because they feel like I have weekends. So the lighter content performs better on weekends. For example, a job opening performs very good on weekends because that's actually the time that people are taking the time to look for a new job more than they do from Monday to Friday. So you need to understand what is the type of content that performs on what type of day based on my audience's behavior. So if I would, just to give you a straight answer, if I would do 3 posts, I would do 2 during the week and I would do definitely one on Saturday or Sunday, but I would have a different type of content pillar for the weekends.
Yep. That's super smart. And yeah, actually someone from the audience mentioned posting career opportunities on the weekend works really well for them. So
Yeah, it
great.
does.
Cool. Well, we are taking a lot of time. I'm just asking a lot of questions because I'm super curious, but we should really move on to some of the other sections, the engagement and
Mm-hmm.
employee advocacy. So
Mm-hmm.
go through these kind of quickly, but I think like, and I've experienced this at my job as well. Many companies try to kind of activate their employees to post
Yep.
on LinkedIn, either
Yep.
directly or indirectly about the company to kind of help increase their brand's reach. So what's one thing you found effective in this practice, and then maybe one thing that's ineffective that companies should reconsider or stop doing?
Yeah. So this is actually a great topic because I strongly believe that the number one priority for companies in 2025 should be having a successful employee advocacy program because reach is down on all fronts except on individuals. So if we can get our employees 10, 20, 25, I don't know how big your company is, to become more active, that's where you get the real organic reach, engagement, and conversion. So ineffective. Ineffective is all the companies that start with why is it beneficial for us as a company? Okay, so they go to the employees and say, you need to publish on LinkedIn. You need to reshare our post because we want to have more reach this. We need you. No. If you want to have a successful employee advocacy program, you need to identify what is the exact motivation why employees should actually care to become active. Okay, what's in it for them instead? What's in it for the company? That's the most important question because if we know what is the individual goal? For example, I recently worked with a company where two of the salespeople, they love to be on stage. They love to be booked as keynote speakers to share their stories and obviously have a complete new network for the services. So when we instead, if we are going to help you with marketing, to become a better writer, to have your own LinkedIn newsletter, and to stand out with a goal to bring you more keynote speaking opportunities, would you would you be on board? And they were like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So there you have the combination, the win-win. Individual gets more speaking opportunities, company profits from the additional reach. Okay.
Mhm.
And then I think one of the other things that don't try to run an employee advocacy program for all your employees. Okay. It's not going to happen. Never. On average, we work with a 20, 50, 30 rule. Start with 20%. And they're not going to be all your ambassadors, but 20%. Okay. That's the group you should focus on. People who are already active on LinkedIn, who love to be active on LinkedIn, who have a job role that requires them to be active on LinkedIn, sales, business development, recruiters. That's your pilot group. Okay. If you make them successful, the 50% in the middle who are the ones that I don't know yet. I might want to become active, but what's in it for me? Let me wait to see if this works. If the 20% becomes active, the 50%, some of them will definitely be your second group that want to be onboarded. And it's a harsh truth, but 30% of your employees will never be your ambassadors because they don't care. They just exchange their time for money, their salary, but they will never talk about your company on birthday parties, on sport events. So also they're not going to do it on LinkedIn. Okay. So focus on the right group, start small and scale with the right people.
Yeah, that resonates really well. I think when I've been at companies that try to do that, it's like everyone can do it. And yeah, it's good to think of your audience like that because you end up having way less people than you think initially will do it. And you think it's like, oh, it's easy. You can just post or reshare. But yeah, it definitely takes more to really get people committed.
Yeah, and it takes probably 10 ambassadors to really create impact. It's just a number, it could be five, okay? But just 10 to create impact, and it only takes one critical employee to break down your whole employee advocacy program, okay? If you have the wrong people in the pilot group, it can really, really like destroy any success of your employee advocacy program. So start with the people who are willing, who see this as an opportunity, and not with the criticals.
Nice. And just to zoom in even a little further here, when you're picking those people, this question applies to that really well. Are there any kind of like prerequisites that means an employee can actually be effective as an advocate? For example, like Do they need a certain minimum follower count to start? Or do they need like a certain title, like an executive title, to be effective? Or could it be any kind of title in the org?
No, if we help companies with implementation, we have two words that decide whether you're in or not. Okay, that's attitude and commitment. That's the only thing. They need to have
Yeah.
the right attitude. They need to be committed that, hey, it's take work. It will take work. I need to follow training. I need to write. I need to engage. So I need to implement this in my daily working routine. But if they are committed and with the right attitude, and meaning attitude, it doesn't mean that they need to like or agree with everything. They can have their critical opinion, but at least an attitude to make this work. But obviously, if somebody comes to me and say, Richard, I want to be seen as a thought leader in go-to-market strategies. Okay. I want to be seen on LinkedIn as the thought leader of go-to-market strategies. And he comes to me and he says, like, I have 300 followers. I don't publish. Then obviously it's going to be a longer road to get to the point where we want to be than if somebody comes up to me and already has 20,000 followers, is publishing content on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So the starting point tells me more about how fast can you scale. Okay, but commitment and attitude is the most important.
Cool. Awesome. Uh, let's get into the last section, social selling, because I know there will be some people really interested in this. You've done some research on, messaging outreach and like kind of converting from social selling via LinkedIn. So just curious, what do you think is like some of the most successful approaches to this, to get actual responses, to convert into like something for your business from LinkedIn?
I think this answer is very obvious, and a lot of people will recognize this. So, with the rise of AI, all people feel pressured. We all have a lot to do. We have too less time. So, a lot of people have turned lately, especially the last 12, maybe 18 months, to automation of outreach. AI flowcharts, AI comments. And I think the most successful approach, if you want to use LinkedIn successfully for lead generation and to build your reputation, is hyper personalization. And that's exactly the opposite of what automation is. Because automation is, hey, I have identified 200 potential clients. I'm going to automate the invites. If they accept, I'm going to automate the first message, the second message. And I know that it will save you a lot of time. Okay. And I know that incidentally, at the bottom of your funnel, you will have one or two people that responded good to all your pre-written messages and that you can call and you have an appointment. But what is the damage done to the reputation of those other 198 who, after they accepted, got your spammy follow-up message and decided to ignore you, maybe disconnect you, or think, hey, this guy never again? I think we need to go, and that's the good thing. The more people that use AI and automation for lead generation, the more we can stand out if we do it correctly, because there is never a sale without trust. Without trust, we never buy from someone, okay? So hyper personalization means in the way how we do the outreach. So if I connect with you, Scott, I need to have a strong personalized hook, whether this is your last post, maybe I've seen this LinkedIn live and I refer to this, but you need to feel special, okay? I don't need to use any words that are a hint to me trying to sell. So avoid things like demo, appointment, introduction. No. If you send a connection request, the only conversion you want is a reply, okay? And we hope for a positive reply. But connection request with the goal to have a conversion to an appointment, it's doomed to fail, okay? So hyper personalize your connection request, hyper personalize your follow up. So if you accept no template, just hyper personal. Wow, Scott, great that you accepted. I just went to the recording of your LinkedIn Live with Richard. I really like this specific part, those kind of things. And then try to start a conversation about your unique value proposition and their current challenges and needs. And once people are open to start having a discussion, then normally after 3-4 of those messages, that's the time to convert to a first uh, like introduction meeting online. No, 15 minutes. Let's have a quick chat and like get to know each other. But I see the shortcut by so many salespeople or entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. Identify a potential client, send a connection request, and if the person accidentally accepts, we send a pitch. Okay, and people feel like pitch slapped. So invest, hyper personalization, do less outreach, make it more personalized, and get more conversion.
Yep. All great suggestions. And I really can relate. It's like you think about just your own experience with getting lots of messages incoming. And it's like also good just in general outreach practices. Like don't get discouraged. Like, yes, send more personalized ones. They still won't always work. So like
Nope.
keep that in mind. Don't think of it as a failure. Like because maybe it'll be that like second follow-up that actually converts them, or maybe you've just gone from 4% response to 8%, which is actually a big deal, even though it might seem small on a one-to-one scale. But
I totally agree. The thing that you should ask yourself if you send a message as a follow-up or a second follow-up, as long as you're respectful, as long as you keep adding value, as long as you're not pushing, and
Mhm.
somebody doesn't respond anymore, it doesn't mean that he doesn't like you. It doesn't mean that he will not buy from you or re-engage with you later. It just means that the
Right.
timing is not correct.
Right.
But as soon as you go to pushy messages, spammy messages, there you have damage reputation. And people normally are not going to write you, thank you, Scott, but the last message was really off. I'm going to disconnect with you. Please don't say. No, they just ghost you. Okay.
Yep.
And just whenever you send a message, ask yourself the question, could somebody um, review this message as negative? Because if that's happened, don't send it. But as long as you're a positive message and somebody goes to it doesn't mean that your approach is off. It means that the timing is not right. So try it again in a few months. Try again to make a comment on a post that they make and see if later on they are willing to engage in a conversation.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. All right. So we're really coming up on time here. So I just want to give an opportunity. Thanks for all the great answers today, Richard. I posted a
Yep.
ton of key takeaways throughout the chat, but just wanted to give you the floor. If you have any last messages, last thoughts to tell our audience, do you have anything to kind of summarize everything from today?
Well, everything. No, I think I
Yeah.
wanna I wanna end with a last tip, and I because I also see a lot of people now holding on to some favorite creators and trying to do exactly the same, like having a blueprint, do exactly the same as this successful guy or this successful lady. It doesn't work. What works for person one is not necessarily going to work for you. It's good to follow some of the creators that you resonate with. It's good to analyze what they are doing, but the next step is make it your own. Find an authentic way based on successful stories from others or successful approaches from others. But you need to find your own tactic and you need to test what works. Okay. Don't be afraid that something will not fly. No, not all your connection requests will be accepted. No, not all your posts will go viral. But be positive, try, analyze what gives you the best results, and create your own strategy, because copying a strategy from somebody else who is successful does not mean that you will be successful in implementing it, because we're all different.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for all the answers today. We're running out of time, so
Welcome.
we're going to end the presentation here today. Lots of questions went unanswered, so apologies for the time. But we'll try to reach out, or if you have questions, make sure to follow Richard on LinkedIn, follow Marketer Hire on LinkedIn, message us if you have any follow-up questions that you'd like answered. We'd be happy to help. And yes, to answer a question in the chat, the webinar will be available online later today, and we'll email everyone who registered and attended with that. So again, Richard, really appreciate you taking the time to offer your expertise.
Thank you for having me, Scott. Really loved it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.